But the real watershed moment for Nike was in 2011. It was a dream come true. India winning the World Cup at home, and it was also the entire marketing campaign for that is gone down in the history of marketing, right? The entire bleed blue campaign, the term bleed blue started from then, and we still use it now.
Hi, welcome to Beyond the Field, a show where I take you off the sports field and into your favorite teams and events. I'm your host Nadeem Sheikh, and I will be talking to industry professionals like me and provide you guys a 360-degree view of the thriving sports industry. Today, I have with me Mr. Jatin Paranjape, a former India player who's played with the likes of Sachin Tendulkar, Saurabh Ganguly, and Rahul Dravid. He is the member of BCCI and the CEO of Khelomore. Hello, sir.
Hi Nadeem, how are you?
Nice to have you. Jatin, sir, you have your experience in cricket, but you've also been an industry professional.
Yeah.
So I want you to give our viewers your background.
Sure. So I was a cricketer earlier uh, for the most part of my life, and I spent about 10, 11, maybe 12 seasons playing for Bombay in the Ranji Trophy. Also had the good fortune of playing 4 one-day matches for India. Three out of those 4 matches were against Pakistan, so played in all of those, crazy India-Pakistan games as well. And then after I stopped playing cricket, I had the good fortune of working with a company called Sporting Frontiers, which was owned by Steve Waugh.
Okay.
And there was another company from Australia called the Macquarie Group, which owned that company. So I worked for them for about 3 or 4 years. And then I got an opportunity to work with Nike. Nike had just come to India, and they had just signed a deal with the BCCI to be the apparel partners of the BCCI. And that's where I joined the company, spent 11 years at Nike, working in sports marketing, and then was a national selector for 4 years. And during that time, uh, I had an idea of making sports easily accessible to Indians through technology, and that's where we started Khelomore. Uh, Khelomore's reason for existence is very simple. It's about providing access to sports venues, to sports coaches, to sports merchandise. So the idea is that if you want to play a sport, it should be easy for you to do. If you want to learn a sport, it should be easy for you to find a coach. If you want to buy a sports product, it should be easy for you to do that. We are now working on new features like connecting with other sports people. Across India now you have a lot of work migration which is happening. So, Nadeem, for example, today you're based in Bombay, but tomorrow if you go to Hyderabad and say you're a regular badminton player or regular box cricket player, you won't know people there, right? So, through the Khelomore ecosystem, you can also discover, players to play with as well. So, all of these pieces we are trying to make very easily accessible because we firmly believe that the Indian consumer wants sports in their lives, especially in urban India, in the top 15, 20, 25 cities. There's a definite need for sports to be easily accessible. And through through our terrific app, we are ensuring that we bring it very smoothly and elegantly to Indians.
That was a nice introduction. As we go on, we'll speak about your Nike experience and the Khelomore.
Sure.
I wanted to start off with giving a background. Wanted to understand how did you develop interest in sports? Did you play sports at school level?
Yeah, so I studied in Don Bosco Matunga, and it's a school very famous for all its sports facilities. It was known earlier mainly for hockey, but it was also a very good basketball and football school. But I started my first game was actually hockey. I still am very very fond of hockey and very happy that the Hockey India League is now being revived.
Yes.
As we speak. So my first sport was hockey. But then, the school coach saw me playing cricket somewhere in the quadrangle, and he called me for the practice. And very accidentally, I started my cricket journey. My father was also a cricket coach, so I would go with him for matches. And combination of being picked by my school cricket coach, and he said, "Just come for practice from tomorrow." This combination of that and watching games with my father, that was my grounding in cricket.
Nice. So you spoke about Don Bosco Matunga. So I'll have to let our viewers know that Don Bosco Matunga has created sports alumni like Farooq Engineer,
Yes,
Ravi Shastri,
yes,
Jatin Sir,
yeah. Shreyas Iyer.
Shreyas Iyer,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And not just cricket, but they've created alumni across sports. We have, I think, Abhishek Yadav,
Yes,
who's with AIFF,
yes,
Edgar Mascarenhas,
yes,
senior and junior.
yes, yes.
So a lot of people coming out of Don Bosco, I wanted to understand what is it about Don Bosco? Is there the focus on sports infrastructure? What is it like? Why are they producing alumni across sports, not just cricket?
I think it all starts with the infrastructure at your school. So if you look at Don Bosco, they have two football fields, they have a hockey pitch, they have many cricket pitches, they have basketball courts. So the ability to access that infrastructure is very easy. And Don Bosco, as an institution, very philosophically believes that sports should be given a lot of importance as part of your overall education. So that's the way, because of the infrastructure, because of the thrust of the teachers also on promoting sports, having good coaches, all of these things in a combination ensure that more children are playing sport. And I think that is fantastic. That is something which has resulted in all the names that you mentioned coming out of the school, and so many more in the pipeline as well. So I think that is the point of difference for Don Bosco, that they create the infrastructure and make sure that more and more kids kind of use that infrastructure. So,
And what I feel also is like I've played football from my school and I have been to MSSA ground.
yeah,
I was watching one of the matches there and I saw the principal watching their under 14
yeah,
match.
yeah,
So that, blew me off. Like you're a principal
yeah,
and you're that serious that you're watching a league game of an under 14 team.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that shows the seriousness of the school and how dedicated they are to
I
develop
mean,
sports.
I remember when we were playing for Don Bosco, our vice principal, some other teachers also would come and watch the matches. And then after Don Bosco, I went to Poddar College because Poddar had the best team, and luckily I had the marks to get in there as well. But even at that time, Mr. Sahu Raja, who was a brilliant economics professor and was the principal of Poddar College, he used to come for our matches as well, and he would get so involved in the game that it would be really like a big thing, and he would sit all day long and watch the game. So these are the small kind of accelerators within the ecosystem which really help young players.
Passionate people. Huh?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
And one of the passionate people you spoke about is your father,
Yeah,
Vasu sir.
yes.
And you've co-authored a book on him. I wanted to talk about that. Cricket Drona.
Yeah, so Cricket Drona actually came about. Sadly, my father is no longer with us now, but the Cricket Drona came about as a little bit of like a ode from a son to a father, because I had seen at close quarters how he had made a huge difference to hundreds of cricketers, literally hundreds of cricketers, and without expecting anything in return at all. Never expected anything, never talked about himself, but the players whom he helped know the kind of impact he had on their game. So I thought it's important for India uh, uh, to have more and more coaches in sports. So I thought let us publish whatever he's done in his life, because that might inspire coaches across various sports to feel that, hey, that a coach's achievements are being spoken about. So I think that was the intention, because in India, Nadeem, if you see, demand is not a problem for sport. It's the supply side of sport which is the problem, like we discussed earlier, certified coaches. And a lot of the coaches feel that, yaar, मैं coaching करके मुझे क्या मिलेगा? Correct. But now that's changing. So I just wanted to also prove that coaches also, books are written about coaches also, not only the players.
Yes.
So that was also a small kind of trigger for me.
And Vasu sir is a former cricket player himself. He's represented Mumbai and
Yes,
Baroda.
yes, yes.
And over the course of his time, he's mentored some of the big names. I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about that.
I mean, some really big names. So, and they've all spoken publicly about it
Yeah.
as well. So, right from Mr. Gavaskar, Dilip Veksarkar, Sanjay Manjrekar, he had a big hand in Sachin's career as well. Uh, Ramesh Pawar was actually a batsman whom he turned into a bowler, and then 2 years later he played for India. A lot of not only Indian cricketers, but a lot of foreign cricketers also would come to him. I remember he used to coach at the CCI, and a lot of county teams would come to the CCI. So Middlesex had come one year, and he worked with Ed Smith, and 6 months later, Ed Smith played for England. And I remember my father asking him that, Ed, why haven't you played for England as yet? And he said, Vasu, I'm still not a regular in my county team. So he suggested that he change his bat and bat with a long handle bat instead of a short handle bat because Ed is tall. Ed is like 6'4", 6'5", and playing with that short handle bat, his head was falling over. And with that long handle bat, he got his center of gravity back really well. And not only did he play for Middlesex regularly, but 6 months later he was playing for England, and he scored 100 on debut versus South Africa. So these experienced coaches, they have such brilliant insights into the game that they know exactly what advice to offer whom. So many such stories. I remember when Sachin was also coming up, my father ensured that he get a chance to bat in the Indian team nets when Sachin was just 14 years old. Okay. And the intention of that was that a couple they will see him and be impressed by him, and then his career kind of took off from there. So my father had a very big strategic kind of role in many careers.
Great. So we'll come back to your journey from your father. I wanted to talk about your transition. You've represented India, played with some of the big names in the country. Yeah. And how did you transition from being up there into a industry professional?
Yeah, I was actually when I played for India, it was during the Sahara Cup in Toronto. That was India versus Pakistan, and that tournament was owned by a company called IMG, and IMG, as you know, is one of the was one of the leading, or probably still is one of the leading sports management companies, and the guy who was IMG's head in India is still a very dear friend of mine, Ravi Krishnan, and Ravi was managing that entire tournament. So I was pretty fascinated with, you know, how he's going about things, and what is the kind of business of sport, and what is it really? What does it entail? I used to ask Ravi a lot of questions, even though I was a player at that time. I was really intrigued by what happens behind the curtain, basically, and that then got me interested in the sports business. I very quickly picked up a couple of books which still remain my favorite. Mark McCormack wrote two books. Mark McCormack was the founder of IMG. Yeah. And uh, he wrote two books. The first one was called What They Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School. And the second one is called What They Still Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School. And those are like the complete how-to manual for the sports business. I would highly recommend it to anybody that if you all are interested in making a career in sport, you have to go and buy these two books from Mark McCormack, and they'll really help you understand the sponsorship landscape, the licensing, merchandising landscape as well. So I still go back to those books, honestly. I still go back to those books, Sunday evening, early evening. I still go and read and find out as to just refresh some of my principles around the sports business. So that's how this transition happened. It really I got interested in the sports business when I was playing for India itself, and in India, not many cricketers have made that transition. In foreign countries, it's a very natural progression. For say a player to go and become the CEO of some organization, or you have so many players, ex-players in Australia today who are CEOs of say New South Wales or the Cricket Victoria. Even in England, they are heading counties. In India, the natural progression is yeah, commentary. But I was always interested in building something, and hence it got my curiosity from the time when I was playing actually, because then I decided that this is what I want to do after my playing days are over, and it just kind of just stemmed from there on. Nice.
And how did the role at Nike come about? Do you remember the day?
Yeah, I remember it very, very clearly actually. A dear friend of mine, Avnish Raghuvanshi, is Ankush Raghuvanshi's father. Ankush Raghuvanshi had just made his debut for Kolkata, and he played really well. Ankush's dad is a very senior recruiter in so he just does all CXO level kind of hiring.
Okay.
And
At Nike?
No, he's an independent consultant, but he just recommends people to. He's good at that.
Okay.
So I didn't know him at that stage. I I remember my wife and I just met with an accident, so I was stuck at home on crutches, and my wife and I, uh, she said, "Chalo, let's go out for lunch." And it used to be a really a big task for me to go out because we live in an old single kind of like a old standalone building, so it doesn't have a lift. So to get down 2 floors on crutches and all that, it used to be a task. So she said, "No, no, come, come. You've been stuck at home." And then we went out for lunch, and while coming back, I got a call, and I was like, who was calling me on a Sunday afternoon? So she said, "You're not doing anything, just pick up the phone." And it was Avnish, and he said, "Look, I'd like to talk to you for a client of mine." And he didn't tell me who it was, but then I met him later that evening, and it turned out that it was Nike wanting to look at me as somebody to run the entire sports marketing function. And the very fact that I played for India, and I knew people at the BCCI and had a good relationship with them, knew all the players really well because I played with all of them. I think that helped. So that's how it happened, just out of the blue phone call. Till date, I don't know who recommended me to Avnish or anything like that, but that's the way it kind of came about. Yeah.
Right. And what do you think were the trends that Nike saw and jumped into cricket?
So I think obviously the biggest market in the world is India today, and it's also the youngest country in the world today from a population perspective, and all the research is showing that it is going to remain the youngest country for the next 7 to 10 decades. So the market was there. Nike was not in India, uh, but all the competition of Nike was in India because Adidas has been in the company for 20, 30 years, for in the country for 20, 30 years. Reebok, Puma, they were all there. Asics was there through a distributor. I think now they are there as Asics themselves. But it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer that Nike had to be in India. But I thought they took a really, really bold decision and jumped into bed with the BCCI. It was a very, very costly deal at that time, extremely costly. But that's Nike. They like to take these big risks. They're a very aggressive company, and they thought that cricket is the way to do it, and they got this deal because even all the individual players, Nadine, were signed by competition. So Sachin was an Addy guy, Reebok, Rahul Dravid, UV, Kef, Harbhajan. These were all Reebok guys. Then there was Sehwag, who was Adidas as well at that time. Puma still didn't have any players. So Nike didn't have any players, so they thought, "Ki, fine, if we don't have the players, it's okay. We will go and get the biggest team in the biggest sport, and the biggest team before the IPL, still the biggest team is India." And they thought that just the swoosh on the Indian shirt, 150, 200 days a year, is going to build that brand salience for them in India. And it was a great call. And I managed that entire relationship with the BCCI. I managed it for 10 years. And it was a great ride.
And this was around, sir, what period? Late, early 2010s?
Earlier than that, I joined 1920 in 2007,
Okay.
or 2006, I think. And they had just signed the deal with the BCCI at the end of 2005.
Okay.
So it was early days. It was pre-e-commerce days also. So yeah, those were different times.
And I think they got both the World Cups, I think, 2007 and 11.
2007, 11, and 15 also.
15 also.
15 also. But
Champions Trophy.
yes, no, the World Cup in Australia.
Yeah.
2015 World Cup in
Okay.
Australia. But the real watershed moment for Nike was in 2011. It was a dream come true. India winning the World Cup at home, and it was also the entire marketing campaign for that is like gone down in the history of marketing, right? The entire bleed blue
campaign.
The term bleed blue started from then, and we still use it now, very, very passionately. So Nike is a champion at telling stories, absolute champion.
Yeah, so just want to touch upon that. They sell aspirations. If you look at any of the commercials, they don't sell products. They sell aspiration. They will push you to be fitter, be faster, be stronger. These are the traits that they push, and indirectly they promote their products. But just amazing campaigns. And one of the first book that I read was Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
Yeah.
And the aggressiveness that you spoke about, I think it is still there at that time also. What when I was reading the book and I understood how aggressive they were. I think it's still there in the company.
And Shoe Dog came out at the time when I was just thinking of starting something on my own, and I happened to read it, and very quickly my mind was made up that yes, I should do something on my own. Fantastic book. Again, I keep going to it again and again, and just the challenges that Phil faced on a daily basis building the company. I've had the good fortune of meeting him 3 or 4 times in my life, and once I remember Nike has an annual award ceremony. They have a annual award ceremony in Portland, and it's called the Maxim Awards because there are 11 maxims which are Nike's kind of code of conduct, basically. And so those 11 maxims have an award. Each maxim is given an award. So somebody gets the award. Some country of Nike gets the award for each maxim. And I'd taken Rohit Sharma there at that time. And Rohit was a Nike guy at that time. And I'd taken him there. And I remember Rohit and I was standing in the green room. Uh, and Phil Knight just walks in, and you had all these, huge, like LeBron was there, and, Michael Jordan was there, and you had all the NFL stars there and the NHL stars and the MLB stars, and they were all there. Couple of the Kenyan runners were also there because all the biggest Nike brand ambassadors used to be called there. It was a fantastic event, and I remember Phil Knight just walked into the room and the room just fell silent completely, complete like pin drop silence. And Rohit and I standing there just kind of looking at each other, and he walks right up to us straight away.
Okay.
He walks right up to us. He wishes Rohit. He says congratulations on being the MVP. So he didn't say man of the series. Rohit had just come from West Indies, and he was the man of the series in that tournament. So Phil had been briefed properly that this is Rohit Sharma. He's just been named man of the series. So he said congratulations on being MVP, and then he turned to me and he said, Jatin, good to meet you again. I'd met him before that, and we had just signed an extension to the BCCI deal. And he said, "Great job on the deal. Great work on extending it." So I said, "No, Phil. It was all a team effort." He said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know about all that. But it was you who, they trust you. The BCCI trusts you." And I think that's huge. So fantastic, well done. Spent like 5-10 minutes with us, then went around and met all the other guys. So great man. Aggression beyond compare. Just a never say die attitude, and kind of that really helped me, still helps me on a daily basis running the business. Because as an entrepreneur, you need a different kind of tenacity. You need a different your guts should be your courage should be at a different level. And I think being in Nike helped me a lot in many ways, just to understand the business, but also work with people who are so smart, so forward thinking. Innovation is the piece. Nike is all about innovation and inspiration. So it just helps me on a daily basis.
And these people, great leaders, they have impact, significant impact. As you mentioned, like the room fell flat silent. I think that is the aura or impact that they put in when they step out. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, you look at all the big guys, right? I've had the good fortune of working with all the biggest football players in the world. So Cristiano and when they kind of walk into the room, it just it's a hush silence there completely.
You spoke about sir signing Rohit Sharma. I think there are other people also you identified at a young age and signed with Nike.
Yeah, so the idea was that all the biggest players were already signed with competition, and I suggested to the management in India and to the sports marketing functional management in at a global level that let's take a slightly different approach. I am from the game. I've been blessed with a good eye for talent. So let us go and sign the young players who will probably not be big names tomorrow, but they'll be big names the day after tomorrow. So that was the approach, and I remember I tapped into all my contacts in India, coaches. I remember my backpack would have like a big chunk of contracts in it. Just the name would be open, the amount would be open, but it was all the contracts were vetted by the lawyers, and I just had to put Nadeem's name there and the term and the price, and that's it. You become a Nike athlete straight away. So one of the first players whom I went to see was Virat Kohli, and I just saw him for the first time. Maybe he was a 16, 17-year-old. He had not even played for India under 19.
And what place was it?
So in Delhi at the Kotla, and yeah, we signed him that evening itself. He stayed with the brand for about 10 years. And so along with Virat, there were so many other players, whom we looked at and signed at that stage. Rohit was another one a couple of years later. Ajinkya Rahane was somebody whom we signed. M. Vijay, Ashwin, Jaddu, all these guys were Nike guys for a long, long time.
And sir, when you speak about Virat, what was it that that you got him on board? Was it his cricketing ability at that point of time, or you thought that he's going to be somebody big next?
It was. I just thought that he looked very self-confident, almost to the point of being brash. I could see that there's a lot of self-belief, and that in any walk of life, you need self-belief. You need the talent and all of that you need, but you need a lot of self-belief. So I was very impressed with the self-confidence that he had, and I thought that this guy will do something.
Great, great insight. Sir, I want to talk about what were the challenges that you faced at Nike. These are all the happy things, like you signed a contract with the BCCI, signing talents.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not a cakewalk. You must be having difficulties. And how did you manage challenges and overcome them?
Yeah, so I think that there are always some challenges in handling big contracts like the BCCI, because when you are an apparel partner and apparel supplier to the team, you are working with hundreds of cricketers as well, and it's not easy to keep everybody happy with the product. So I think there's a servicing part to it, there's a education part to it at the back end, because I would work a lot with. So sports marketing is a very intersectional function in Nike. You work a lot with the product teams within Nike. It will be the apparel team. So tell them, hey, what's the right insight into building the best test shirt or the test trouser. I remember we had included buttons on the trousers at the bottom. So when the fast bowlers want to change into a fresh pair of trousers, they don't need to remove their shoes. They just unbutton it from the bottom, and they don't need to remove their shoes, because wearing a fast bowling shoe again it takes a little bit of time. And so these small insights we try to build into the product to build a competitive advantage for the product. So that itself requires a lot of effort to educate the product teams. Then with footwear, so how does Nike build the best cricket bowling footwear, for example? And how do you explain that to the product people in Beaverton who have never worked with cricket? But how do you explain that to them? How do you explain that to the vendors as well? So a lot of the alignment stuff also takes time. And within big companies like Nike, you have multiple layers, to navigate. So there was a servicing challenge for some time at the front end, but also integration alignment challenge at the back end. But it teaches you all about how to maneuver situations, how to get the best outcomes possible. Because that's even in today's day and age, I always talk to my team about outcomes. You have to be able to get the best outcome. Don't tell me about a problem. Let's discuss a solution for it. Uh, so outcomes is what I learned. How to be measured against your outcomes. How outcomes are the most important thing is what I learned at night.
Great. We spoke about Nike, sir. We'll move on and speak about Khelomore.
Sure.
How did Khelomore come about?
So I spent 3 years at Nike's European headquarters working in Europe football sports marketing, and there I made a couple of friends who worked for Booking.com. As a family, we had moved to Amsterdam, and Booking.com is a Dutch has a Dutch founder. So their global headquarters, I think, still are in Amsterdam.
It's a ticketing platform. Huh?
Booking.com is like an Airbnb, right? Essentially, it's a ticketing platform. But it's an aggregation platform, right? And I was really impressed by this thought of aggregation, and I thought that if you put the entire supply of sports venues and sports coaches on one platform in India, it will be really beneficial for the sports consumers to come in and start participating in sport. Because I just felt that something had to be done to kind of ignite participation in Indian sport. And I just thought that technology layer, like an aggregation platform, wherein you are able to see many things at the same time, book your slots on it, pay on it. Uh, I thought it will do really well. So that was the aggregation was the kind of igniting point for me.
And what you spoke about, I completely agree with that. That you have to give a participation to masses.
Yeah.
This is what accessibility Khelomore provides. Earlier, we had Jitu sir, Jitendra Joshi sir.
Yes.
Yeah, he spoke about that. Like in order to grow sports in India, you have to have mass participation events.
Yeah.
And if not events, then such opportunities should be provided because 60% there are chances that people who are fans of sports are earlier have played that sport.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I always, that's a great point, Nadim, you bring up, but I say the same thing that let's take cricket. So today we are seeing a huge amount of uh, surge in cricket participation because of the IPL, because of the WPL. More girls are coming into the sport. Boys want to play more as well. Parents are very willing to come in, but middle age, 30 to 50-year-olds also playing box cricket like crazy. So, like you said, everybody has some connect with sport, and I always say that just for a cricket consumer, at least 70% out of males in India will say, yeah, I have a backstory in cricket. That I played for my school, or I played for my college, or I played for my state. So you just have to give them that access, that ease of access. So over the last 3, 4 years, we built our product out very nicely. It was a very big challenge to build our product. But I must say that Dream 11, who are investors in Khelomore, really taught our product team how to build product. Harsh Jain, who's the founder of Dream 11, I remember he put two or three of his most senior product guys to work with our team, and they taught us how to build product. We did not know before that, to be honest with you, because both Ujjwal and I, my co-founder Ujjwal and I, we are both non-engineering founders, so we don't know code, and now we know a little bit about product, but Dream 11 played a massive role in that.
Jatin sir, you spoke about Dream 11 being one of your sorry. Jatin sir, you spoke about Dream 11 as one of your funding partners. I want to talk about how did that happen?
So I think Dream 11 are wanting to build out an entire sports ecosystem through their investee companies as well. So it was a very natural progression, and it's a damn good development that well-funded founders are also trying to build the ecosystem. In addition to Dream 11, Ashwin Nameda, who is the founder of Eruditus, which is a huge company today. They do senior education for online for senior level management essentially. So Ashwin's another investor in our company as well. So been lucky to have a really good set of investors. My first investor is another very big name from the VC kind of business. That's Gaurav Deepak, who's the founder of Avendus Capital. Avendus have done all these big deals for Dream 11 and raise money for Make Network and Swiggy and so Dream 11 obviously have an intention of building out the sports ecosystem. Ashwin Namira has been another huge pillar of support for us. So all in all, happy to have great investors who believe in sport, who want to contribute to sport, and yeah, we're working down that path.
And it's a nice thing, like we've publicly seen Dream 11, the founders of Dream 11, Harsh and Navin, they've spoken like the difficulties they faced while raising. So they had like, I think, more than 100 rejections before getting their first round.
Yes.
And it has become easier for us, like people in sports and sports tech. The difficulties that they have faced, we are, become much more accessible and easier for us to raise funds.
Yes, absolutely, and it's that famous dialogue from Moneyball. Have you watched Moneyball?
Absolutely, sir.
This
Absolutely.
famous dialogue from Moneyball is the first one through the door has a bloody nose. So and I think we are seeing a little bit of that in our line of work right now because somewhere VCs also have to be educated about the potential in the sports ecosystem. Uh, Too often I've met people from the investment side who kind of think that they know what's happening in the ecosystem, but half knowledge is a very dangerous thing. So So I go out of my way to educate people about what's happening in the sports ecosystem, participation ecosystem, and what the potential is, what the unserved demand is, and how is how high the ceiling is from a growth perspective. So I think every founder should make it incumbent upon themselves that they educate, even if you know that you're not going to get a check from a certain company, but try and educate them about what's happening. Because if not you, then they're going to cut a check to somebody else later on. So you're in a way you're doing the right thing for the ecosystem. That's always been my belief in good days or bad.
So I wanted to talk about the offerings of Khelomore.
So in to keep it really simple, it's about ensuring that Indian consumers have great access to sport, whether it is playing a sport in terms of you want to book a football turf or a badminton court, or you want to join a running event, for example. You should be able to access that and be able to join that venue or join that tournament or join that event very quickly, pay for it so that you have a confirmed participation. So playing a sport is what we've nicely built out on our app. Now we are also adding over the next 2 3 months, you'll have thousands and thousands of sports coaches, certified sports coaches who will be available to be booked through Khelomore as well. Then the reality of India is that all the reality of India is that there are thousands of tournaments running at literally every day across India. And these tournaments could be a small box cricket tournament somewhere, or could be a chess tournament somewhere, or could be a football tournament somewhere. And all of the booking for these tournaments happens manually. Literally, the tournament organizer will send out a Google form, which is the evolved way of doing things now. Earlier, it was a pen and paper. Right. So we've got a beautiful events feature now, which a lot of our venues are using, a lot of tournament organizers are using. So idea is to ensure access of sports participation, whether you want to play just with your friend, or you want to play in a tournament, or you want to learn how to play a sport, or if you want to buy merchandise, it should all be very easily available to you. So in effect, we see this as evolving. We see the Kilomore app as evolving into a super app for sports, essentially.
I think it's a one-stop shop for
Exactly.
sports.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what are the criteria that you consider while signing up, say, a turf or a coach or academy?
So obviously the ecosystem is evolving now. So you that when you need to be in a good shape, it needs to be open at certain hours. It needs to be safe from a playing perspective. So these are the criteria for venues. For coaches, it is what certification do they have? And that kind of stuff is what we use as a filtering and a benchmarking mechanism.
And what are the challenges that you faced in terms of scaling Khelomore to what it is now?
I think the challenges, obviously, from a venues perspective, are how fast can you onboard venues. So if you ask me, there is no challenge from that popular term which you call product market fit. We know for a fact that Indians want what we have to sell, essentially. So the challenge is obviously trying to have enough capital for you to be able to grow. The challenge is how do you grow profitably as well. So all these things you learn as you walk down that path, essentially.
And what do you think is the future or direction that you want Khelomore to go in?
So I have no doubt in my mind that we will be in about 100 to 150 cities in India. And we will be catering to all the age groups, right from the age of 5, where somebody wants to learn a sport, your parents want you to learn a sport, uh, to the age of 55, 60, where 70 also, where you want to access some wellness help, for example, you want a meditation teacher or you want a yoga teacher, down to the 30, 40, 50s, where you want to learn Zumba, or you want to learn Bollywood dance, or you want to play at a turf, or just want to go and hit a few balls in a play and play net. So all of that will be looked after by Kilo. Great.
And I wanted to talk about the recent association between Khelomore and MCA.
Yes. So Melbourne Cricket Academy is part of Cricket Victoria's certification setup. So the idea is that Khelomore now are at many gated communities also. We have tie-ups with a lot of cricket academies also. And one thing which we are seeing is that uh, the coaches are not well certified across the board. And when a coach, when a consumer books coaching through Khelomore, it's Khelomore who's providing that coaching to the consumer. So it's incumbent on us that our supply side is really well kind of articulated, knowledgeable, etc., and certified. So we thought that why don't we take on a partner from a certification perspective? So it will help us, to get more and more certified coaches into the fold, and will help us to conduct the certification through our platform itself. So today the start is with cricket, but we will also be doing it with a couple of other sports where we are seeing a huge demand. Swimming, for example, uh, yeah, the estimate is that there are 150,000 modern societies slash gated communities in India. That's 1.5 lakh, and each of those has a swimming pool. So swimming is also big. Today we need good trainers from a swimming perspective also. So cricket is just the start. We will be doing it in 4 or 5 other sports.
Across
Yeah,
sports.
yeah.
And speaking specifically about MCA, what do you think is the value add that they will be providing you in
So,
India?
so they have a fantastic coaching curriculum. Right from the age of 5 or 6. That's the first steps into sport. They have a great curriculum which enables coaches to take those kids and make it very enjoyable for those children to play that sport. In India, you straight away take a 6, 7 years old and put them into the nets. But that's not the way to learn sport. The way to learn sport is through a gamified, enjoyable, collective learning atmosphere, wherein they just learn the basics of motor skills in a slightly different way, and then you introduce the cricket part to it. So it's a very scientific curriculum, very well articulated as well, and with great educators from their side who will come and then coach the master trainers here, essentially. Yeah.
And how do you think what will be the future in order to expand across the country?
So I think we are seeing a lot of onboarding which is possible through an automated way, and we are trying to automate as much of our width as possible, but also want to add value as we go along. So it like I said, it all depends on the amount of capital you're able to raise so that you can accelerate your growth. But one thing is certain, that the Indian consumer wants what we have to sell.
And I had this experience of being there in at the press conference and being able to speak with Nick.
Yes.
What a gentleman, and what depth of understanding he has about Indian consumers. Like for one of the examples, he was explaining me what is the difference between Tamil Nadu and UP. The
Yeah.
difference is cricket
Yeah.
between Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh. So they have done their research, they have done their homework, and then they are, coming out
And
with
the
it.
interesting piece is that all the curriculum will also be created for local languages. So their English curriculum is being translated into local languages, so that when the education is happening, there's
Language barrier.
nothing lost in translation, basically. So all of these pieces we have been very mindful of, because if we have to, I always feel that if you want to launch something, it should be very well researched, and it should be something which comes about after studying the entire demand supply mismatch, consumer preferences, do a lot of consumer work before that. So all these things we have done in the case of MCA.
Great, great. I'm sure it's going to add value to the sports academy and the entire sports ecosystem overall. Moving on, sir, what is your role working with the BCCI?
So I'm part of the cricket advisory committee. This is a committee which is involved in the appointment of head coaches and the selection committees for men and women. So it's just a kind of role there, which is interesting because it's always good to be able to contribute in some way or the other.
Yeah. And like BCCI has done a tremendous job in elevating sports and specifically cricket. What do you think are the steps that they are looking at to take cricket ahead from where it is exactly now?
I think BCCI, not many people give them credit, but they have a fantastic development infrastructure all over India. And I think now, if you see, the Northeast teams have been added to the running trophy, so there'll be a lot of work there. I'm sure that they are working with the Northeast organizations to start inter-school tournaments there. Now JNK also will become a very big inclusive kind of piece. So all across the board, the BCCI is doing a fantastic job, and they're big they are big capital providers to the development of the game across the country. So without capital, you can't really grow a game, and they have been very generous in ensuring that not only men but now girls cricket, a huge focus on girls cricket with the WPL. So it takes a lot of courage to take these calls, and they're happy to do it if the reason is the right reason.
Fantastic job being done by them. You spoke about J&K and Northeast. I'm sure these are the areas that they like. We will see potential people coming up in the
100%.
IPL and later
100%.
on in the Indian
It's just
cricket.
a matter of time.
Yeah, yeah. Sir, I wanted to talk about these are general questions. I'm sure across your professional career, you must have had some funny instances. I wanted to talk about that.
I think uh, life is a continual learning process, right? So something or the other keeps happening. There are obviously some of the stuff I can't share, but yeah, you keep encountering such situations. Uh, like when I was playing for Bombay, the dressing room was full of characters. You had a guy like Vinod Kamli who would make everybody laugh all the time, and uh, in all the teams that I've played, you've had these, larger than life kind of characters. In my Nike days also, you encounter certain situations. So every day is a learning.
So have you faced such a situation where you have a shoot and the athlete or the guest doesn't show up or shows up late or shows up at the wrong shoot?
I think I've had more than my share of those. I think, uh, yeah, it's not only in India but also in the case of footballers in Europe as well. So it's you have to expect the unexpected sometimes, and you've got to have the ability of thinking on your feet. There was in 2014 I was managing all the shoots for Nike for the Brazil World Cup, and there were like some 30, 40 footballers who World Cup was 2016, right? No, the Brazil World Cup was 2014. 2014. Olympics. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. And so managing all those shoots was a nightmare, and suddenly there is bad weather and somebody's private jet gets cancelled and or somebody gets injured and the shoot is the next day. So what do you do? So it's life of a sports marketing guy is seems very glamorous. That you feel, oh, these guys are just attending matches, sitting in the hospitality area and having fun. But it's actually a pretty unglamorous life because there are so many other parts behind the curtain which are very, very tough to navigate. And what do you think are the factors that will lead to sports growing in India? I think access, just access, pure and simple access in terms of access in terms of getting more and more people to play sport, but access in terms of the adding to the number of venues at which you play sport. So more infrastructure is needed. The state governments also need to do a little bit more from their side. So in just one simple word, access. If you provide access to Indians, your participation is going to go through the roof. And a lot of our viewers are potential people who are looking to join the sports industry. What are the areas of employment do you think are there for them? So I think there are 4 or 5 very, very important areas where there is a huge opportunity. When you've also done your sports management course, and the default setting is go and do a sports management course. But I'm afraid that there aren't many jobs after that. I'll tell you where the jobs are. The jobs are at a supply side. So venue management is a huge area. Today, gated communities, clubhouse management is a huge area. Venue management, you don't have a curriculum. Nobody teaches you venue management. Nobody teaches you clubhouse management. Uh, then another piece is tournament organization. Tournaments are very profitable. So, but nobody teaches you how to do that properly. A school sports operations manager. I think that's another huge area where we don't have a curriculum today. We just have a bachelor's in physical education. That course has not been touched for the last 20 years. So it's not contemporary at all. And all these roles which I talk about, so school sports operations manager, a venue manager, a tournament manager, or a coach, or a clubhouse manager, all these roles need to be made modern, and hence our tie-up with MCA that let's make, some of these curriculum, let's make them modern. And all these roles, Nadeem, have a place for technology in them. So how do you handle a particular technology? How do you handle the back end from a venue management perspective? All these things have to be taught, which to my knowledge are not being included in curriculum. I'm happy to be proved wrong where somebody comes and says, no, Jatin, we are teaching all these things. I will doff my hat to those people. But these are the roles wherein a lot of employment will get created. And I'm very bullish that children, Indians who are in college, in college, and they pass out from college, I think this is a great kind of 4 or 5 buckets of jobs which these young Indians should look at to continue their journey in sport. And then you grow from there on, essentially.
Great insight, nice depth of knowledge. I think most of the people that are looking to join the sports industry, they are just looking at the top level, like
Yeah.
IPLs or WPLs, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of scope and a lot of gap that can be done.
Yeah.
The number of things that you mentioned, absolutely agree with them. Mass participation event is one thing that they can look at.
Yes.
Absolutely, and I'm sure like people will be contributing to the sports industry. So moving along, let's look at the rapid fire round and see how you do.
Sure.
So all set for the rapid fire round.
All set.
One word to describe your journey in the sports industry.
Fascinating.
What's your favorite sports documentary?
The Redeem Team.
Okay.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's on the so the Dream Team, the US basketball team, lost in 2004, but in 2008. So in 2004 they were the Dream Team,
Yeah.
and in 2008 the media started calling them the Redeem Team.
Yeah, absolutely. I've watched it, and so some of these documentaries, they are very fascinating, and you feel very close to them.
Yes.
When you're watching such documentary, yeah, we are covering the rapid fire round. There's this touching on that.
Yeah.
The amazing task that they do. I think what one of the things that I want to mention is the Drive to Survive series that has come out. I think that has increased the number of viewership of F1 and also the fans. Now I am avid the follower of F1 since way back, but now there are a lot of people who are following F1 in India.
Yes.
And yeah. And recently, I think the Liberty Media, they bought the MotoGP as well. So I think that is also an area for them to go. Okay, coming back, sir, your go-to sports app or website for the latest sports update?
I use the BCCI and IPL apps pretty frequently.
Okay. If you could switch careers for a day, what would you choose?
I'd love to be a writer.
Okay, that you are.
No, but a sports writer. Like, I would love to go and cover matches, like how traditional cricket journalists would go and cover matches. I'd love to try that.
Nice. What's your proudest professional achievement so far?
I think setting Khelomore up has been one of the proudest ones.
Right. One word to describe the future of sports in India.
I think one word could be unending.
Okay. If you could have dinner with any sports industry figure, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Mark God.
Why? Just to pick his brains.
Just so fascinating. Just so fascinating.
What's the most memorable sporting event you attended in person?
The 2011 India Sri Lanka World Cup.
If you could bring any retired athlete out of retirement for one last game, who would it be and why?
I'm a big GR Vishwanath fan.
Okay.
If I would be able to see him live, it would really make my day.
Sir, we are about to conclude our conversation. I want you to give our viewers one advice that you have received which helped you professionally, and one advice you want to give to someone who's coming up.
I think it's all about being determined. It's all about having confidence in yourself and being patient. If there's one thing which I've learned from my journey is that be patient, have patience with yourself, but have patience with your friends, with your family, with your teammates as well. Because if you are doing the right thing, things will be good. It might take a little bit more time, but that patience, you're going to keep building your patience muscle. Okay.
Fantastic advice, sir. I would like to thank you for taking out time and speaking with us. I think that's a wrap from our side. Hit the like button and the subscribe button and keep watching Beyond. Thank you.